I've come to find that people that want to lose weight are often looking for hacks, tips, quick fixes in order to get results, but they're not realizing that the most important thing is the deep underlying change that's necessary for them to reach their goals. I've been coaching for a while now, and my first ever client was a man in his 30s who had just become a father and wanted to lose weight in order to, look good for the marriage and for the newborn baby. He always had that big smile on, and he kept telling me about how much he wanted to lose his belly fat. He was a smart guy that had done well financially, but he didn't fully understand how fat loss worked. The problem is that you're applying a rational surface level solution to what is ultimately a deep emotional problem. Because when it comes to weight loss, especially for those that have been overweight for a long time, then it's much more complicated than just doing more cardio. And so that's why today we're going to talk about mindset, emotional eating, self-sabotage, and then the solution to that in this video, so that you have a clear idea of why you can't seem to lose weight and how to realistically do it. As Morgan Housel said it, no one's crazy. And there's a logical explanation that can justify your behavior, even if it looks like a bad behavior in your eyes or in the eyes of the world for that matter. And after my first month of coaching, I realized that people commonly adopt an all or nothing mentality, and that's a big problem. Most people you see, if they skip a workout, maybe that's you, they'll skip the whole week. If they choose to eat takeout because they're too tired on their way home, then they order delivery food for the whole week. And that doesn't work like that. But in your mind, it can happen because your brain keeps telling you, as soon as you break the streak, your brain goes into, what the hell, the streak's broken, so might as well go all the way in and indulge. That's an all or nothing mentality. This is probably, if not certainly, the most detrimental way to operate if you're trying to work on your health and fitness, because failing is part of the process. And if you give up and destroy the whole progress that you've made every time that you slip, you'll have to start from scratch over and over again. And chances are that your mind won't let you do that because it's too hard of a struggle. I had another client who was a young professional who had gained a lot of weight because of long hours and stress at work, which is common, I'm sad to say. He was outgoing and expressive, and he genuinely wanted to lose weight in order to feel better and be more comfortable in his own skin. Problem was, he had a deeply embedded all or nothing mentality. He'd show up to training, improve on his nutrition, and start building new habits for a week. But as soon as he overindulged and went back to his old ways, he would stop everything and skip sessions for a whole week, telling me that he wasn't feeling so well. And I respected that. And that's okay. But the thing to understand here is that you cannot cultivate this mentality, because this is going to block your weight loss, and this is going to prevent it in the harshest way, because it will sound like your own brain is against you, trying not to get you to lose the weight. And when it comes to fitness, getting back in shape or losing weight, you need to bet on two things: patience and small changes that compound over time. And clearly for my client at the time, it wasn't possible for him because of his all or nothing mindset. Losing weight doesn't mean following a meal plan or doing a crash diet. And I hope that by now you know that, okay? Because losing weight is the consequence of changing your eating habits, and not for good, I hope. And the reason it feels impossible, the reason why your brain resists change and try to lead you back to old patterns that you know better, is because you've been acting a certain way around food for decades. And you learned it as a child how to engage and how to interact with food, how to use it. And you've developed a relationship to it that's most likely unhealthy if you've come to the point that you need to lose weight. And remember, no one is crazy. To your primal brain, which handles emotions, and I'm kind of rounding it so that it's easier to understand, but it doesn't matter if your behavior leads to harmful long-term consequences, as long as it delivers comfort in the short term and it makes you feel better, okay? That being said, the all or nothing mentality means that after one mistake, you're out. You stop. But the truth is that this mistake, relapsing into your old ways and ordering I don't know, whatever it is that you enjoy as food, or skipping one workout because you want to keep watching Netflix on the couch, is your default pattern. And so you need to expect that you will fall back into it from time to time, and that will happen because it just will, okay? And the sooner you understand that, the better your brain is going to be when it comes to that. You cannot condemn yourself for acting the way you've always been acting, okay? You're not going to change like snap your fingers. You will make mistakes. You will slip back into old patterns, and that's just part of the process. Expecting yourself to do everything perfectly, to quit your current self and reinvent yourself overnight, is both foolish and anxiety provoking. By cultivating an all or nothing mentality, you set unrealistic expectations for yourself, where one step back causes the whole structure to collapse eventually. Okay? So the first step is you have to let go of that mentality if you want to reshape your physique. Otherwise, you'll never sustain the process long enough to see the true results of your efforts, because you'll keep killing your own progress as soon as you slip back to old patterns. Your weight and how you look is just the tip of the iceberg. It's the consequences of your actions. The behaviors that you cultivate around food are merely the visible part of the equation, okay? You have to know that there's a whole world underneath them. Maybe you are aware of it, maybe you're not. But you need to understand that overeating, stress eating, indulging, and all those habits are tied to your emotions. Because food has become this coping mechanism for you and helps you feel better in the moment if you're sad, overwhelmed, frustrated, or even celebrating. And the problem isn't really the food. It could be something else, okay? Food is just an acquired behavior. It's just the thing that you're seeking whenever you feel down. But for some people, it's nicotine and they smoke. It's not the source of the problem. Food is not the source of the problem. And the most important concept to grasp is this. You can change for the better if you only focus on the symptoms and not the root cause of the problem. And I knew someone who truly relied on food to self-regulate. Okay, every time he fell down, every time he had a rough day at work, he would start snacking. Okay, he snacked throughout most of his days, and when it was time to go home, he'd order takeout on his way back. And we had a bunch of conversations about it. At first, he was convinced that his problem was elsewhere, that he wasn't doing enough physical activity because obviously he wasn't losing weight, and that his job kept him from walking. And so he went on to kind of this quest of finding all the excuses that he could have, and eventually it took him months to truly understand and realize that the real issue was his relationship with food and how he interacted with food. Not the fact that he couldn't walk during his breaks, or the lack of physical activity, or the fact that he wasn't doing enough flexibility work. If you view food as the problem and simply try to limit yourself, I think you're likely to fail. In fact, that's what I've come to find. Like this, I've seen time and time again, people that try to do that restriction. And we're going to talk about that in a second. So when you need to explore, when you need to be able to, and willing to uncover, it's what's happening behind the scenes. You need to understand why you're using food in this functional way. This is the reason why diets, they don't work. This is why gastric bypass is a solution itself, and why Ozempic is far from being a magic remedy. Some interventions might help for sure, okay? And I'm not a physician. What I'm saying is that if you want to resolve the issue entirely and you're not aiming the right things, then your chances of doing so are very slim. And to me, the only way to do that is to understand what's going on, is to reconnect emotionally, locate the true problem, and then fix your relationship with food once you understand who you're against. So if you've tried losing weight in the past, if you've tried diets, then you've probably discovered that completely overhauling your eating habits and your habits in general, it's not the way to go. And it doesn't work for an extended period of time. Restriction is not sustainable, and you shouldn't aim at that, okay? It only triggers cravings, and it certainly shouldn't be something that you want to use and maintain long term. Deprivation is the enemy because the more something becomes inaccessible, the more you'll crave it. It's part of the human nature to chase the things that we feel we cannot have, especially when we believe that they'll make us feel good and make us feel better, improve our state, okay? This is also why most people fail their diet and can stick to their meal plans, because every time that they hop on a diet, then they have to restrict all the things that they enjoyed, they like, that brought them dopamine and comfort, and those things, they come back as food thoughts and cravings into their minds. Because the truth is that if I gave you the perfect meal plan right now, complete instructions on what to eat, what to buy, how to cook, how much of it, I'm 100% sure that you'd lose weight. But I also know for a fact that it's not something you can realistically stick to in the long run. In the beginning, you'd be motivated because you know that this thing's going to work. You'll be driven by willpower and fueled by unrealistic expectations about how quickly you lose the weight. But after 2 weeks, what happens is that it might feel like it's not working fast enough for you. And the cost is way higher because of the state of deprivation which you're in compared to the results that you're getting at the moment. And suddenly your old eating habits, they look much more appealing. And in your mind, there's no way that you can last a month like this, sticking to the strict diet plan. The problem is that if you want to get in shape and stay in shape, it's not about following a diet for a few weeks. It's about building eating habits that last a lifetime. And deprivation is clearly not the way to get there. Instead, you need to learn and understand the fundamentals of nutrition and how to use them to your advantage, how to incorporate them into your life so that you get the results that you're looking for. But it has to be gradual. It has to be a learning process, okay? There's one thing for certain. It's that you can't rely on fleeting and initial motivation to get you started and then rely on switch it to willpower to keep you going, because it doesn't work like that. Willpower, we talked about it on this channel before, but willpower is limited. Willpower gets drained by every little decision that you make during the day, no matter the set of circumstances, which is why doing anything after a long day at work often feels impossible. That's why you need to build systems. That's why you can't constantly battle food thoughts and cravings, and you need reliable and safe structures in place so that you don't have to rely on willpower and motivation all the time. Here's an example. You come home, you're feeling drained and overwhelmed. You don't want to start chopping vegetable and cook the meat. You want it to be easy and quick and direct, and that's how delivery platforms, they make the big money. Now imagine the same scenario, but instead of having to decide what to cook, doing the meal, the dishes, you have a pre-made box in the fridge that contains everything that you need to eat. All you have to do is take it out of the fridge, put it in the microwave, and in that case, you're, in my own estimations, 1,000 times more likely to stick to your healthy routine if you just have to take a box and put it in the microwave and just eat. Because I haven't met anyone who can't microwave a Tupperware yet. But for this to work, you have to get organized. You have to build the systems. You have to learn how to meal prep, how to find the good recipes, how to batch cook, how to prep your meals in advance so that you can safely do this, okay? This is just one example and one kind of system that you'll need to sustain if you really want to and invest in your weight loss and stick to it in the long run, because you don't get too fixated on the details, but rather you need to try to understand the big picture. If you've been out of shape for quite a while now, and maybe it's been years, maybe it's been decades, then the main issue is that it has become part of your identity, part of who you are as a person. Because your brain strives to maintain a stable representation of the world around you. That's the most important thing. That's like the main mission it has. And as a result, your current identity, aka who you see yourself as, is deeply anchored into your psyche, into your mind, okay? Making it very difficult to convince your brain otherwise. And that's why change is so hard, because you attach yourself to your old identity and you don't want to differ from that. And a little while ago, I was coaching someone who told me that they've always been a fatty, okay? From early childhood until now, he describes himself as the one who'd always finish everyone's plates at the restaurant, who'd always go overboard with the portion size. And when I heard that, I realized how deeply this identity was anchored in his self-image. And it wasn't just how he saw himself now, it was how he identified for years, like since childhood. So it's been quite a while for him. And even though his self-image was negative, it provided him with the stable representations of himself and the world around him. And that's the only thing that guides your decisions and maintain internal coherence. So you need that. Because to your brain, it's the only thing that matters. Coherence, meaning some sort of stability, is more important than happiness and how you look. And if you've always been overweight and that's all you know, then finding a new identity requires letting go of the old one. And that's really hard to do. You have to separate yourself from the old identity, essentially losing that part of yourself to create enough space for the formation of a new one. Okay. And this process is complex, but by now I hope it's clear that diets, nutrition hacks alone, they won't cut it. Because the change that needs to happen on a much deeper level than just changing your eating habits. And the sooner you understand that your weight and habits are linked to your identity, the better. Because if you ignore this connection, you open the door to self-sabotage. Think about it. When you change your eating habits, when you start going to the gym, or when you stop snacking, there's a part of your old self that feels censored, feels deprived, and unable to express itself as it once did, usually did. Self-sabotage can take different forms for different people, but in my experience, it's often tied to self-comparison, negative self-talk, and poor decision-making. And it's the classic scenario of sticking to your diet for 2 weeks, starting to see positives change. And then the old patterns, they just kick in and you sabotage your own progress. You order pizza and you hit the whole thing. The bottom line is this: your own identity can be a blockage preventing you from truly changing for the better. And it can lead to self-sabotage. And you have to store that in the back of your mind, because this is really important. Because at some point, if you fail, we talked about failing, you have to observe and analyze and try to understand and grasp the reason why you failed. Because most of the time, it will just be self-sabotage. And to overcome this, you need to let go of the old identity through a slow and gradual and emotional process. Only then can you begin to cultivate a new identity that's built on healthier habits that will stay with you for the rest of your life. So those are the main things I think you need to be aware of as you try to lose weight and adopt a healthier lifestyle. It's the things that I don't hear anywhere, but people need to know. And most people are not willing to tell you that, okay? Those are, in my opinion, the real emotional blockage that most people will encounter. And I know a bit because I've had these conversations dozens of times. And it can sound overwhelming, but that's not the point. The point is to have a clear direction. The point is that you want to be completely conscious of those aspects, because in my experience, again, that's really what truly prevents people from losing the weight. And when it comes to your first step, do not complicate your life and think that you need to change everything at once. Do not overhaul, okay? What you need rather is a complete and easy to use structure that takes you one step at a time and that gives you just the next step that you're capable of doing. And if you don't want to do it alone, having someone that helps you in this process, someone like a mentor, a coach, or even maybe a friend, can be extremely valuable. But besides the support, you also need knowledge on what to do and how to do it, which is why I created Fitness Autonomy. But find what works for you, even if it's not fitness autonomy. Find what works for you to be able to reach your goal. because you need to reach it. You need to lose the weight and you got to be capable of it. And as always, I hope this helps. Trust the process.